About 5:55 a.m. on Sunday morning, Shreveport police received the first call regarding a disturbance at a resident in the 300 block of West 79th Street.
The police calling the crime scenes gruesome. The victims, 3 boys and 5 girls, all between the ages of 3 and 11 years old. The mother and another woman who were also shot, now fighting for their lives.
To a heartbreaking and horrific mass shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana. 8 children between the ages of 1 and 14 were killed in what police are calling a gruesome crime scene.
On the morning of April 19th, 2026, in a working-class neighborhood on the south side of Shreveport, Louisiana, the Cedar Grove community woke up to something it had never experienced before, something that would stop an entire city cold. By 6 a.m., police were on the scene of West 79th Street. What they found inside that home will be described by Shreveport officials as the single worst tragedy in the city's history. 8 children were dead. The youngest was 3 years old, and the man responsible, the man who had walked through that door in the early hours of the morning, was someone those children knew, someone they trusted, someone who was supposed to protect them.
I can tell you the suspect in this case, Sharmar Elkins, has been identified. He is the father of 7 of the children that were killed in this house. There is an 8th child that was also killed, as well as the 2 females that were involved. Both of them had gunshot wounds. One of them is still in life-threatening condition. The other is in serious condition, but is expected to recover. There was also an additional female and an additional 13-year-old juvenile that fled from this house and actually jumped off the roof. They both had injuries sustained from fleeing from the incident, but they are both expected to recover.
His name was Sharmar Elkins. He was 31 years old, and before that morning was over, he would also be dead, killed at the end of a police chase in Bossier Parish, just miles from where it all began. This is not a story about a stranger. This is not a random act. This is a story about a family, and about how the worst violence often comes from inside the home, behind closed doors, where no one is watching. We're going to walk through exactly what happened that morning, who these children were, who this man was, what the warning signs look like, and what every single one of us can take away from one of the most devastating days in Louisiana history. Stay with us, because these 8 children deserve to be more than a headline. Before we go any further, if you're just hearing about this case for the first time, drop a comment below and let us know what city or country you are watching from. And if you believe every one of these children deserves to be remembered, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it matters.
We began with a community grieving after a mass shooting in Louisiana. 10 people were shot in Shreveport. 8 were killed, all of them children. The gunman also dead. Police say the attacks happened at 2 homes. CBS's Jason Allen is there for us tonight with the details. Jason.
Jarika, good evening. People are still filling the Shreveport neighborhood tonight, emotional and upset over this shooting that happened both at this house behind me and another one just up the road. And police told me in the last hour it was a survivor of the shooting who escaped and called them to tell them about it. Just after 6 o'clock this morning, when police got here, they found 10 people had been shot. 8 of them had been killed. And as you mentioned, all 8 of those were children. Police also confirming for me that at least 7 of those 8 children were the children of the shooter, who they identified as Sharmar Elkins. After the shooting, police say that Elkins carjacked someone just down the street, got into a pursuit with police, stopped. They say he produced a handgun and police officers shot him there at the scene. Louisiana State Police tonight are also involved in this investigation.
This is a tragic situation, maybe the worst tragic situation we've ever had in Shreveport.
I don't know what people think in the crevices of their mind to want to harm another human being, let alone that of children who have their whole life ahead of them.
We were contacted for the shooting. Our officers responded, located the scene, located the 8 individuals, the children that were dead, and they tried to provide aid where they could, but ultimately were unable to save any of them. There was a child that jumped off the roof. We were able to get him to a hospital, and he is expected to survive. There's also 2 adult females that were injured during this mass shooting. They are both in critical condition. We are hopeful that they will survive. One is significantly more critical than the other. So we are keeping their families in our thoughts and prayers.
About 5:55 a.m. on Sunday morning, Shreveport police received the first call regarding a disturbance at a resident in the 300 block of West 79th Street. The caller stated that they were on top of a house. The suspect was inside and that a male had been shot. 3 minutes later at 5:58, dispatch received an additional call indicating the suspect was a relative of the caller. A minute later, 5:59 a.m., dispatch was advised that approximately 9 individuals resided at the location. The caller further stated that the suspect, identified as Sharymar Elkins, had shot everyone inside the home. At 6 o'clock a.m., 1 minute later, the caller advised that she and her children had fled from the roof and were now in the backyard. 6:01 a.m., officers arrived on the scene. 6:03, officers made contact with the caller at the residence. At 6:05 approximately, officers requested the Shreveport Fire Department to stage at a nearby location close to Linwood. 6:07 a.m., a second call was received regarding a shooting in the 500 block of Harrison Street. The caller stated that her boyfriend had shot her, taken her 3 children, and fled the scene. 6:08 a.m., the victim identified the suspect as Sharymar Elkins. At 6:10, dispatch linked the Harrison Street shooting with the shooting on West 79th Street and that they all were related. At 6:15, officers received information that the suspect had carjacked a red Kia Sportage at West 79th, closest to Linwood. At 6:17 a.m., our traffic units out on random patrol encountered or observed that particular vehicle traveling southbound on Interstate 49. The officers advised at 6:18 that they were crossing the Red River Bridge into Bossier City. At 6:20, officers received information that the children taken from the Harrison Street residence may be inside of the fleeing vehicle. 6:23 a.m., officers advised that they were exiting near Swan Lake area. 6:25 a.m. approximately, officers located the injured victims from the Harrison Street shooting. 6:29 a.m., officers made contact with the suspect through an exchange of gunfire. At 6:30 a.m., officers confirmed contact with the suspect in the 400 block of Brompton Lane. 6:40 a.m., officers advised that the suspect vehicle was empty and no children were located inside. 6:43 a.m., officers cleared the resident of West 79th Street where multiple deceased victims were located. 7:03 a.m., Sharymar Elkins was pronounced deceased at the scene on Brompton Lane. 7:14 a.m., the Shreveport Police Department contacted the Louisiana State Police Investigative Division, and they began their deployment to the Bossier City address to begin to investigate the officer-involved shooting.
All I can tell you today is my heart is saddened. It has brought me to my knees, and of course that's a great place to be, because then we can communicate with God.
Apparently the shooter started at one place and shot someone who he had a relationship with or was in a relationship with. And then he went to the other location where there actually, I think, were 9 children there. One of the children has survived, but 8 of them were shot and killed by the same person. He then bolted from the house, hijacked a car, and took off. The police gave chase, and they ended up in an exchange of gunfire, at which time the assailant is deceased.
Over 30% of our crimes and 30% of our murders in the city of Shreveport are domestic in relation. Now that number has gone up. We've more than doubled our homicides in the city of Shreveport because of one act of domestic violence. We as a community, black, white, Republican, Democrat, need to stand together and fight for what is right. This is nothing but pure evil. We can have 100 new police cars. We can have a brand new, beautiful, multi-million-dollar police substation right up the road. But until we stop this violence, the cycle of violence, like I've said over and over again, we're going to still be standing here, and it's only going to get worse.
Because the truth is this: domestic violence is not a private issue. It's not a family issue. It is a community issue. And when we fail to respond in a coordinated, consistent, and compassionate way, people die. This tragedy is a painful reminder that we cannot afford to work in silos. We cannot afford to wait until the next crisis. We cannot afford to treat domestic violence as an afterthought. We must ensure that every victim, every mother, every father, every child has access to safety, support, and intervention before the violence escalates. So today, I'm calling on every leader in this parish to join us in building a fully coordinated, community-wide response to domestic violence.
I was born and raised in Cedar Grove, so that was the neighborhood I grew up in. So I get it, and I just want to, it don't even have to be Cedar Grove. It can be Cooper Road, Allendale, Lakeside. All communities, all neighborhoods should feel the tragedy of today.
Now I'm asking you to please utilize every resource that the sheriff has brought forth now when you know that these situations occur. We cannot be and make this a joke. This is not a freaking joke. This is real, and this is the result when someone snaps. So I'm gonna ask the community, along with prayer, with every mental health consultant, counselor that is out here, this family and this community needs you. I need you. Because how do we get through this? How do we get to the next level? It is real, and this is wrong. And these are the tragedies when there are domestic violence or domestic disturbances in our community.
Now that you have heard from the people on the ground, let us take a step back and walk through the full picture of what happened on April 19th, 2026. Because to understand the way of the story, you have to understand who was in that house, who Sharmar Elkins was before that morning, and how a sequence of events that began hours earlier ended with 8 children losing their lives. The children, their names were Jayla Elkins, 3 years old, Shayla Elkins, 5, Braylon Snow, 5, Kayla Pugh, 6, Khedarrion Snow, 6, Layla Pugh, 7, Markaydon Pugh, 10, and Sariahh Snow, 11 years old. 7 of them were Shamar Elkins' own children. One, a cousin, was also in that home. Most of them were asleep when it happened. Let that land for a moment. These were children in their beds, in what should have been the safest place in the world. Their home. They had no warning. They had no chance to run. They were 3 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old, and they trusted the adults around them to keep them safe. A teenager who was also in the home that night managed to escape, jumping from a roof and surviving with injuries. That teenager is alive today because of a split-second decision. 8 others were not given that chance. Elkins also shot his wife in the face. She survived. His girlfriend, shot earlier that same morning on Harrison Street, was critically wounded. 2 women lived through something that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. The timeline. What we know is this. At approximately 5 a.m. on April 19th, Shamar Elkins shot his girlfriend on Harrison Street. He did not stop there. He drove to West 79th Street, where his wife and children were, and continued. After what happened inside that home, he carjacked a vehicle and fled. Louisiana authorities pursued him into Bossier Parish, where the chase ended on Brampton Lane. Elkins died there. Investigators from the Louisiana State Police are still working to confirm whether the fatal shot was self-inflicted or fired by officers. That investigation is ongoing. By 6 a.m., the first 911 call had brought police to the scene. What they found that morning doubled Shreveport's homicide count for all of 2026 in a single hour. Who was Shamar Elkins? He was 31 years old. He had served in the Louisiana Army National Guard from 2013 to 2020. He was a father to most of the children who died that morning. In 2019, he was convicted of firing a weapon near Caddo Magnet High School. The sentence was probation, no prison time. That prior conviction and that lenient outcome is now a central part of the conversation happening in Louisiana about how the justice system responds to early warning signs of violence. In the days leading up to April 19th, Elkins had posted about personal struggles, about what he described as his own inner battles. 10 days before the attack, and then in the hours before it happened, he posted family photos, normal-looking photos, the kind of thing you scroll past without a second thought. That contrast, the public face and the private fracture, is something investigators and community members are still trying to make sense of. He was also in the middle of a custody battle with his wife, a legal dispute over the children who would later die in that home. We want to hear from you. Do you think the 2019 conviction and probation sentence was handled correctly? Should the system have intervened differently? Comment below. This is a conversation that needs to happen. And if you think stories like this one need to be told, share this video. Not for the algorithm, for these 8 children. What this story demands we reckon with. Shreveport city officials have called April 19th the worst day in the city's modern history. And it raises questions that have no easy answers. A man with a prior weapons conviction received probation and returned to a home with children. A man going through a bitter custody dispute, one that centered on those same children, showed public signs of distressed days before the attack. A neighborhood that had seen no prior signs of this kind of violence became the site of a mass killing of children. None of those facts, on their own, would have guaranteed that someone could have stopped what happened. But together, they form a pattern. And that pattern looks like what domestic violence experts have been saying for years. The most dangerous period in an abusive or volatile relationship is often not the past. It is the moment of rupture, a custody battle, a legal loss, a perceived loss of control. Domestic violence does not always look like what we expect. It does not always leave visible marks in time for someone to call for help. It can look like a man who seems to be holding it together. It can look like family photos posted to social media. It can look like a court case that appears on the surface to be moving through the normal channels. The people most at risk are often the ones who cannot speak for themselves. And in this case, 8 of them were between the ages of 3 and 11. If you or someone you know is in a relationship where you feel unsafe, or if you have seen warning signs in someone close to you, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The number is 1-800-799-7233. That number is also in the description below. Please use it. Please share it. Closing. We started this video by saying these 8 children deserve to be more than a headline. So we're going to end it the same way we said their names, deliberately and with the weight they deserve. Jayla Elkins, 3 years old. Shayla Elkins, 5 years old. Braylon Snow, 5 years old. Kayla Pugh, 6 years old. Khedarrion Snow, 6 years old. Layla Pugh, 7 years old. Markaydon Pugh, 10 years old. Sariahh Snow, 11 years old. Their names are not a footnote. They are the whole story. If this video moved you, if you believe these children's names should be spoken and remembered, leave their names in the comments. Every single one. It is the smallest thing we can do, and it is also the most important. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story that the world needs to hear. And share this video, because awareness is a first step toward change. Rest in peace to every child we lost that morning in Shreveport, and to every family still carrying that grief today. We see you.